I do feel like they're working on a much bigger update, and this is just a filler episode, I hope. Well, hope is just a typo for this guy, but I'd like to give you some actual solid facts for why you should be excited for the next update. Jeb has been talking a lot about the future of the game and about what he thinks about werewolves, or indeed biome votes, or indeed the humble campfire. And if you want to hear about these alongside shapeless crafting or the vertical half slab, today I'd like to share all of that. But first, let's hear some optimism from the man himself, because Minecraft just won Best Live Service Game at the Swedish Game Awards, and Jeb had to say,
Minecraft is truly endless, and the work to make Minecraft better is also truly endless.
He follows on to say that the team is working night and day to achieve this after an obligatory thank you to the community, and I know what you're all thinking, yes, this is another distraction from the Herobrine files, but more seriously, I think that this means that Minecraft is working on something big, and what exactly is that? Well, we have responses from Jeb on things like biome votes and which mobs won't be added, as well as things like the campfire, but first I'd like to talk about what it probably won't be, because Minecraft did post this week about having another step towards vibrant visuals. However, they did also clarify that they are going to actually put Vulkan, the new graphics API, into snapshot testing over the summer at some point, but then they are going to keep it there until it's performant and ready. And so if it's only going to start collecting feedback in the summer, it's unlikely that it will be the summer drop, which will release in the first month of the summer. And so what can you expect for that instead? Well, recently Jeb has been very active on social media, and he gave a rare direct response to someone who asked that Minecraft should add in the old growth taiga forest a little bit more of a challenge, and so why not add a werewolf to those spooky old woods? And Jeb gives a direct response where he says, yes, actually I can answer this. Minecraft may have zombies and dragons, but since those early days, I've been pushing the team to build a Minecraft fantasy and not a generic classical fantasy. So when we add monsters, we try to design monsters that are unique to Minecraft. And this does match what you see already. If you look at the last drop that added hostile mobs, you've got the camel husk and the zombie nautilus, very much fantasy creatures when compared to the real world. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of basis behind both of them, but kind of barely, right? And this is the kind of future of the game. And if you think about other requests, I thought these were really interesting to compare by comparison, because when Jeb says this directly, that there will not be werewolves in the game, it's not something you can say when someone asks, hey, can you add these mobs to vanilla? A duck, a goose, a peacock, and a turkey? He says, well, I can't comment on future updates. And we have the exact opposite of Jeb saying, well, in theory that could be added, when someone asked about biome votes, because Pin Hero Sam says, well, I know you stopped hosting mob votes, but could we at least have biome votes again? Because some biomes just feel empty, and the biome votes were less controversial. And Jeb's response was, we will continue to improve the game, including biomes. In other words, saying, yeah, no biome votes, which is the opposite of what he said for these animals, like in theory one day, and that kind of tracks. Minecraft can add real mobs to the game. I think the grizzly bear or the platypus are great examples, but when it comes to hostile mobs, it's unlikely that they would just add a shark, they'd rather add a guardian. And so what can you envision for a hostile mob update? Well, you have to come up with brand new things like the dirt slap golem or the crender. This is a real mob from an add-on I found. What would they do? This is the fun thing, right? I think that Minecraft can have far more fun imagining one of these things in the game, as it then has to actually have real gameplay addition in the things that it does, as opposed to just existing for the sake of, well, existing. I think that I'm not the only one who finds the armadillo to be a little bit of a letdown, because its sole purpose is it's an armadillo, and we gave it a purpose that could have probably been given to anything else. This is what I think the Guardian or the Zombie Nautilus certainly don't have as problems. And so, while we're speaking of hostile mobs, I should answer this next question from Oogly Boogly 302, which is, I can't wait for the Wither 2, but it's gay. It's funny, whenever I try to come up with a boss mob on the spot, like I did in my 39 minutes of Minecraft discussion video, the only mob that ever comes to my mind as a fun new hostile mob, it's the Wither, but it's gay. And you might wonder, like, well, how do you come up with that, Toy Cat? Well, they actually added the Wither 2, but it's gay, if you'll believe it. This is a part of the Loves and Hugs update in 2015 in 4 years, and even though this is just a pink wither, it still captures my attention and comes to my mind much easier than any, real existing thing, because the Wither is already such a fascinating mob, and I think that when you make mobs like this, you make Minecraft more of an interesting game to play in. However, Jeb actually responded to criticism saying the opposite, because AvZinc says, on the one hand, I love this, but on the other hand, check out this article. It points out that the more Minecrafty new mobs are, the more they contribute to the player's sense that they are in the Minecraft world, rather than a world that they can easily and entirely make their own. And obviously, this is a big article talking about a lot of things, but Jeb says, well, there's too many things to comment on, so I'll just say he addressed the creeper topic, and he agrees about the campfire problem. So Jeb has understood that there is a certain balance between being a Minecraft world versus being a world, and I think that's the ultimate thread between the contradiction in saying, yes, we will add anything real to the game as long as it's not directly hostile. I think polar bears are maybe on the edge here, whereas if it's hostile, they try to add something brand new. It seems like a good way to solve the in-between of that, but what I also thought was interesting is that he said that he agrees about the campfire problem, and so I read this article, not expecting very much, but it has a really well-written piece on the campfire that I'd like to share with you today. So it says that in update 1.14, The Village and Pillage, a decorative campfire block was added to the game with the ability to cook food similarly to the furnace, but without the fuel cost. Notice how redundant the block is in both gameplay and aesthetics. In other words, they say that it uses the ability, it uses the aesthetics of the fire while also using the ability of the furnace, but actually removing the ability, the need to have both of these, because instead of having to have a clever trick to get around limitations, it's just a block in the game. You don't have to do clever stuff with fire anymore. And so here is the line that I think describes the problem. To use anything but the campfire block would be making a campfire the wrong way, because they don't have all of these downsides, and although it does have its own unique uses as a block, namely the smoke that many people like to use it for, it is still a very interesting case of an item that kind of just overpowers the things that come before it. And so the fact that Jeb says that this is something he finds to be interesting, he would use the bed as a better example, and I guess he's right. Like, the bed just took away the behavior you'd do before it, and it's funny because the bed is the first thing that came to Minecraft for me, and I kind of felt that. I loved that it existed in the game, but it made me realize that the night of Minecraft I played before, where I had to go caving every single night, was entirely gone. They took away gameplay for me to add some new ability, and that's kind of what the campfire did to both the furnace, which most people don't use it for, but more realistically for the fire, which it is now fully replaced. Speaking of fully replaced, Solar1TE says, we used to get biomes to explore, structures to discover, and bosses to defeat, but now we get cute animals and flowers, and indeed, I think this has been true for a very long time, that outside of the Garden Awakens, there's not really been a big new challenge of any form, and is that something that I would expect to see fixed? Well, obviously, we can do the obligatory thing where we say, well, Jeb did make that comment about hostile mobs, but it doesn't tell us when the hostile mobs are coming to the game. But what I thought was interesting was a direct response we got about biomes, because outside of that biome comment, we had Jeb also respond to Unknown Player, who said last year's set of drops have completely lacked any new biomes or structures and fully new block sets and palettes. Is there a reason why this is the case? And Jeb simply says, I think this is just a coincidence. However, when we add new biomes, it often forces players to explore long distances or create new worlds, so that adds to the considerations. I think that kind of sounds like new biomes are less likely than they otherwise would be because of the fact that they are rarer than if they just say, look, we've got a brand new baby chicken, you can literally get it by breeding 2 chickens together anywhere, as we know you do in your early game anyway. And I think that that's an interesting way that they've increased the exposure to drops. Even if you don't play a drop right after it comes out, you'll probably experience the content because of just how early game it is. And so is this something they're going to fix in the longer term? Is there going to be any more late game content in that hostile boss kind of, form? I'm thinking that it's definitely become much less likely, or at the very least is relegated to one corner of the year. It seems as though both winters we've got on our hostile mob quotient for the entire year out. And so is that something that's happening here? And therefore should we say that the summer drop is probably not going to focus in a hostile direction? I wouldn't go that far, but if you want to know why I'm leaning in that direction, let's look at what Jeb has been saying about crafting, because I got this comment from Nugget Awesome that really made me think, because they said crafting cobblestone into stone is overpowered. I love it, and it's a simple example of how someone who literally isn't playing updates, they say they're playing Title Update 4 still, is fascinated by something in the future, whereas the sorts of things that hardcore players really want, but specifically only hardcore players, to give examples of this, a new boss, or an end dimension, or the best of the free, a Switch 2 upgrade. I know we're all looking looking for it still. But these are the sorts of things that 1% of players will really enjoy, but 99% will go, I guess that's happening. I don't know what that will really do for me besides when I look at it in videos. And that is, I think, a big reason why they are trying to focus on the broad Minecraft player base. And so what, if I had to make a prediction, are they going to be doing for the broader Minecraft player base? Well, I think the hostile mob is possible, but not necessarily guaranteed. I think knowing what they believe is possible for friendly mobs gives us an idea, but not really enough of one. But what I think is interesting is if we take all of the things we've been hearing about crafting and vertical slabs and combine it in one place, we get an interesting little peek. So here is the first thing. About a month ago now, Jeb was confused why people kept saying that vertical slabs inhibit creativity because it's something he'd never said before people quoted it from being from the Feedback Minecraft site and the previously considered suggestions. If you're curious, he recently, he did say he would have to go and update that, and the way that they updated it was they put it in the archive of the website, so now it's archived previously considered suggestions. In other words, saying that is no longer considered an updated or accurate article. I mean, technically that's an update, but it's no fun. But what is fun is this comment from King B Dogs. What's a color palette you really wish Minecraft blocks explored more of? And indeed, we've got this comment from Jeb, which I also found to be interesting, where he says that he floated the idea of changing how crafting works since the Legacy editions didn't use the grid, and then he says he met harsh traditions internally and didn't push the issue. But Jeb likes the idea of playing around with crafting, and indeed has no issue of vertical slabs, whereas King B Dogs a little while after that starts talking about what block palette should we have. Are we about to see a brand new type of block with new, like tricky, weird variants, maybe including half slabs? Are we about to see something that makes people go, whoa, that's cool? Because if we're being entirely honest, if they introduced a brand new wood type to the game and it's green, and for some reason it can be made into diagonal slabs or vertical slabs or into any form of new type of, like a block form, I think that that would get a huge number of people interested. And I think that that's one of the weird things about the world, right? That the things that are the hardest are not the things that people appreciate most. Speaking of that, actually, I've got one last, not question today, but comment from Chiliusbean13, a regular here on the channel you might recognize, but she says, now that you're not just putting out fancy trailers for live streams, you're using unique thumbnails on playlists instead of the default ones, almost like you're trying to be professional. And I just wanted to use this as a call out for, if you haven't seen already, we have brand new playlist thumbnails on the channel. It is the sort of thing that I feel like if you are, if you watch this channel regularly, you're probably never going to see. So I wanted to point them out here just so I can have my 5 seconds of feeling good about them, because Harrison did a great job on these and I wanted to make sure that you all saw them. But also, I feel like we've been doing a great job on lots of things recently, moving the channel forwards in all sorts of ways that hopefully you'll be appreciating, including new thumbnails like this one. We are doing lots of important steps because that is how the YouTube game works. And yeah, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video and enjoy seeing where we go on the channel in the next few months. I've got lots of big ideas I'd like to incorporate, and my favorite one is this comment, which says, to which dictator has the best seed? So I guess you have to wait and see what we do for Seed Sunday tomorrow. But I'll also have to see, because for today it is my mother's old birthday. Is it still a birthday? I don't know, but I'm gonna go and I don't know, pay some respect. So I say pay some respect. I think I'm gonna be the one getting some respect out of this. It's like a handy therapy session to go to the grave. So that's what I'm gonna go to do today. I hope you have a good day, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.